one word more, that is renin angiotensin aldosterone system. Okay, so it is in short it can be called RAS. Okay, so to start with, we'll see what happens with how many of you are in here. 5, including me, 5, no problem. So Saurya and Abhilasa and Devapriya. Okay. And who is 1880114? Can you please? 1880114.
So Shashwat.
Okay, Saraswat. Okay, fine. So we'll try to finish it in just 1 hour. Okay, it is 9:06. No problem. How many of you join? Even if I have taken the ID from these schemes, and it can accept 100 students, and time is unlimited. But I will finish in 1 hour. There is no 40 minutes restriction. Okay. So what is renin? Renin is we know it is a hormone, but at the same time it is an enzyme. So it is aspartyl protease. Okay, and it is secreted by JG cells. This time, this AIMS INICET examination, there is a question: what is the source of renin? Where from this renin is secreted? We know it is a JG cell, but where the JG cell is located? Location. It was something like which cells on the collecting duct side or on the endothelial side. It is usually at the junction of the DCT and your afferent arteriole. Okay, so at this point the macula densa and the JG apparatus is present. On the DCT side, the cells are converted into macula densa, and on the afferent arteriole side, the cells are converted to JG cells. And macula densa usually it senses the low sodium or your what is that your pressure, low pressure in the afferent arteriole, and it releases prostaglandins and your prostaglandin, particularly I and E, prostaglandin I2 and E2, and that stimulates this afferent arteriolar cells, that is JG cells, to secrete renin. Okay, so renin, what are the three stimulations of the renin? One is low sodium in the macula densa. If due to, suppose someone having a low blood sodium, then what will happen? Because of the low blood sodium, the less amount of the sodium will enter into the macula densa, and it will sense that, and it will release the prostaglandin E2, I2, and that stimulates the afferent arteriole. Okay, afferent arteriolar JG cells. Okay, these are modified afferent arteriolar endothelial cells. Okay, and they when they are stimulated, and they release renin. Okay, well, not only renin, actually it is released both renin and prorenin. Okay, prorenin, both are released. Prorenin is released in a higher amount in comparison to renin. Okay, and usually the prorenin, actually it is a long amino acid chain. What happens, there is one what we call, there is a signal polypeptide. Okay, in the prorenin, actually it is even bigger than that. It is pre-pro renin. You can write it, pre-prorenin. Pre-prorenin, the pre part is the signal polypeptide. Okay, signal polypeptide, and after cleavage of the signal polypeptide, whatever remains is the prorenin. And this pro part is 143 amino acid. Okay, 43 amino acid component, that is to be cleaved. Okay, by the action of the cathepsin, one enzyme, and that acts on this, that is cathepsin or pro convertage. Cathepsin or pro convertage. Okay, we'll see it again later on in the later slides. Okay, so that convert that splits this pro part. Okay, So after the action of the pro-convertase, only the renin remains. But the pro-renin and renin both can have their, earlier it was thought that the pro-renin is inactive form of the renin, but now it is being postulated that both pro-renin and renin are active. They can convert this angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Okay, so anyway, one stimulus is the low sodium in the macula densa. If the person has low sodium in the blood, or if the person is taking diuretics and for that reason there is salt and water loss and there is low sodium in the afferent arteriole, then it will be sensed by the macula densa, and that will trigger renin release. Another is low blood pressure in afferent arteriole. So there is one baroreceptor pathway. This is the first one is called macula densa pathway. Okay. So first one is macula densa pathway, low sodium sensed by macula densa, prostaglandin synthesis, afferent arteriolar JG cells are stimulated, renin release. First one. Second, the second one is a low blood pressure in the afferent arteriole, that will be sensed by the local baroreceptors, and that will cause the release of the afferent arteriole. That will cause stimulation of the JG cells, and that will cause release of the renin. Second one. The next, the third one, we know the sympathetic beta 1 receptor. Okay, beta 1 receptors other than heart, the other location is the JG cells. We know it. Okay, in the sympathetic system we have read it, and this beta 1 receptor stimulation by any sympathetic activity, it will cause beta 1 receptor stimulation in the JG cells, and when JG cells is stimulated, that is there will be release of renin. So the third one is called beta receptor pathway. So we have three pathways. One is macula densa pathway, second one is your baroreceptor pathway, and third one is the beta receptor pathway. Okay, and the renin once released, it has very short half-life, only 15 minutes. Okay, and within that short period of time, it converts the angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Okay, and the inhibitors, particularly this is the usually it is the second, you may say it is the third line, what is that, you may say it is the aliskiren. The specific renin inhibitor is aliskiren. You can see inhibitor IREN. So I stands for inhibitor of renin. Okay, so it is aliskiren. Actually we can have two more renin inhibitors. Let me, they can be in a mnemonic, we can find them. Okay, renal, AL is aliskiren. Okay, RE is remikiren. Okay, and enal is enalkiren. So there are three renin direct, they are called direct renin inhibitors. Okay, so there are three. One is remikiren, one is aliskiren, and another is enalkiren. They are usually your second line or third line antihypertensive drugs. Okay, so whenever the first line treatments fail in the treatment of hypertension, maybe and if there is a high plasma renin activity, if the plasma renin activity is evaluated, if it is found to be higher, okay, high plasma renin activity plus failure of the first line antihypertensive agents, okay, then only we can go for this direct renin inhibitors. But anyway, they are to be combined with the first line drugs. Okay, coming to the second renin, after the renin, the next thing that comes in the list is your angiotensin. Okay, so angiotensin usually it is one plasma protein. Okay, so it is the precursor of the angiotensin is angiotensinogen, that is alpha, otherwise alpha 2 microglobulin. Okay, present in the plasma, possibly synthesized by liver. Okay, liver. So alpha 2 microglobulin is a angiotensinogen. It is a 12 amino acid. Okay, it is a 12 amino acid component, and the renin acts on the angiotensinogen. Okay, and it splits the terminal to amino acids, and the next and it synthesizes. So due to action of the renin, whatever synthesized is angiotensin 1, and it is decapeptide. It has 10 amino acids. Okay. And another enzyme that comes into play is the angiotensin converting enzyme. In short, it is called ACE, and ACE converts this angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Okay, by splitting two more amino acids. So angiotensin 2 is octapeptide, whereas angiotensin 1 is decapeptide, and the angiotensinogen is 12 amino acid component. Okay, and one more is that is angiotensin 3. It is further synthesized from the angiotensin 2 when one more enzyme that acts on this angiotensin 2, that is, you may say, it is aminopeptidase. Okay, aminopeptidase. It removes one terminal amino acid, and it is the heptapeptide. So angiotensin 3 is heptapeptide. Nothing much known about this angiotensin 3 except it has no significant action like angiotensin 2 or 1. But in terms of release of the aldosterone from the adrenal medulla, adrenal cortex, okay, zona glomerulosa, it is equipotent to the angiotensin 2. So let's see what are their activity. Angiotensin 1 is 1/100th of the activity of angiotensin 2. So angiotensin 2 is the most active. Angiotensin 1 is 1/100th of the activity of the has the 1/100th of the activity of the angiotensin 2, whereas angiotensin 3 has 1/10, almost 1/10 of the activity of angiotensin 2. Okay, so if we take it angiotensin 1 as 1, then angiotensin 3 will be 10, and angiotensin 2 will be 100. Okay, and in terms of aldosterone secretion from the adrenal gland, angiotensin 2 and 3 are equivalent in terms of aldosterone secretion. Okay, and further one more thing is that there is here it is, we see it is the ACE. It is the actually angiotensin converting enzyme 1, ACE. You may say it is ACE1. So what is ACE2 then? So recently you must have heard about the corona. Okay, so there is the activity in the how the coronavirus enters into the human cell with the help of another thing. It get anchored to the human cell with the help of the ACE2, angiotensin converting enzyme 2, probably. Okay, it is postulated that, and this ACE2 when acts on this angiotensin 1 and 2, that converts the angiotensin 1 and 2, either angiotensin 1 or 2, they are converted to another angiotensin, that is angiotensin 1/7, written something like that, and its action is exactly opposite to the action of the angiotensin 1, 2, and 3. So that means when the angiotensin, as the name suggests, angiotensin means it increases the tension, it constricts the blood vessels, it increases the blood pressure. Okay, and angiotensin 1/7 does the exact opposite. Probably by release of the nitric oxide, it causes vasodilatation and it causes decrease of blood pressure. Okay, so that is something exactly opposite. One more angiotensin is there, that is angiotensin 4, like 1, 2, 3. One more is angiotensin 4, and it is probably present in the brain, and it prevents the destruction or lysis of the decrease the lysis of what, that is some neuropeptides in the brain, and probably it is helpful in the brain in the memory, long-term memory. Okay, so angiotensin 4 is something related to memory, and angiotensin that is angiotensin 1/7, that is something opposite to the other angiotensin 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and ACE2 is something that is responsible for the synthesis of the angiotensin 1/7. Okay, and further other angiotensins can be synthesized from them, but they are usually inactive, and the enzyme that is responsible for the conversion of the angiotensin 2, 3, 4 to even smaller angiotensins. They are they are collectively called angiotensinase. Okay, so by the action of the angiotensinase, the last angiotensin get metabolically converted to inactive component. Okay. So now coming to angiotensin converting enzyme. By this angiotensin converting enzyme, we mean it is angiotensin converting enzyme 1. Okay, it is a dipeptidyl carboxypeptidase. What it does, it converts angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. So it is a decapeptide. Okay, deca, or you may say 10, and it becomes 8. Okay, 8 is 2 and angiotensin 1 is decapeptide. So it splits the terminal 2 amino acids from the angiotensin 1, and it forms the most effective or most active angiotensin, that is angiotensin 2. Okay, so that is the action. Okay, so secretion, where from it is secreted? It is usually it can be found in the circulation, when we call it a circulating renin angiotensin system, or it can be found in the local tissue. Okay, and where we can call a local renin angiotensin system. So what is the common location of the circulating renin angiotensin system? So once this angiotensin 1 is formed from the angiotensinogen by the action of the renin, the angiotensin 1 circulates in the circulation. So when it comes into the pulmonary circulation, particularly pulmonary lung circulation, okay, pulmonary circulation, in that the angiotensin ACE enzyme, okay, ACE enzyme, angiotensin converting enzyme, present on the luminal surface of the endothelium in the pulmonary circulation. Okay, it is found on the surface. So angiotensin converting enzyme is a surface enzyme. Okay, and it present on the luminal surface of the endothelium. Okay, luminal surface. So what it does, it converts this angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, that is circulating renin angiotensin system. What about the local? Sometimes what the cells do, they usually capture the circulating angiotensin 1 as well as the angiotensin converting enzymes, and inside them or on the surface of the cells, they convert it into angiotensin 2, that is extrinsic. And that is extrinsic local renin angiotensin. One is intrinsic. What happens in the intrinsic? They don't capture anything from outside, but they synthesize everything, the enzymes as well as the angiotensin 1 within their cytosol, and they convert it into angiotensin 2, 3, and others. So that is local intrinsic renin angiotensin system. Okay. So you can see how this angiotensin is angiotensin gene is converted to angiotensin 1. Here we can see how the renin is acting, or how the prorenin, particularly this is a new concept actually. Earlier what we were thinking? Earlier we were thinking that this prorenin, that is usually it was thought to be inactive, and that undergoes enzymatic activation because of the action of this pro convertation or cathepsin. Okay, and the active renin is formed, and that converts the angiotensin gene to angiotensin 1. That is the enzymatic. This we have already learned, but that is enzymatic activation of prorenin to renin and conversion of angiotensin gene to angiotensin 1. But another thing is that when this prorenin comes in contact with another thing, that is the prorenin receptor, which causes non-enzymatic activation. Okay, there is no conversion of the prorenin to renin. That's why I was telling that prorenin, although it was thought to be inactive, precursor of the renin, but actually it can become active when it comes in contact with the prorenin receptor without getting converted enzymatically or structurally into renin, but instead just it is non-enzymatic activation. When it comes in contact, it gets the power whereby it can convert the angiotensin gene to angiotensin 1. Also, at the same time, this renin although it has some power, suppose it has a power of X to convert, it has this much power X to convert angiotensin of Gen to angiotensin 1. But when it comes in contact with the prorenin receptor, you can see the combination. It is non-enzymatic augmentation, means increased activity. It becomes several times active, okay, multiple times active, and it can convert the angiotensin of Gen to angiotensin 1 more effectively. Okay, so that is what the role of prorenin receptor. It is a recent concept, and maybe you may be finding the new questions on this, okay, in the recent future. What is the role of prorenin receptor? It causes non-enzymatic activation of prorenin as well as non-enzymatic augmentation of renin. So activation of one and augmentation of the other one. It is the complete cycle. What is the fate of angiotensinogen? You see, it is the 12, it is the 10, and it is the 8 amino acid. So it is the precursor angiotensinogen. It is the alpha 2 microglobulin. Okay, microglobulin. So it is converted to angiotensin 1 by the renin. And further, the angiotensin converting enzyme 1 converts this angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Suppose we inhibit this one. So there is some alternative pathway also. Okay. So there is one enzyme that is called, you may be finding a question on this, chymase. You may say it is chymase. Okay. So chymase, what it does, it alternatively, in the absence of the angiotensin converting enzyme 1, it can convert angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, but the amount is very less. Okay. The amount of the angiotensin 1 conversion to angiotensin 2 by non-ACE method. So it is called NSA, NAS pathway. So it is non-ACE pathway. So it is the contribution of this path is very minimal, very small. But when we can block this enzyme or inhibit this enzyme, it becomes important. Okay. So what are the subsequent effect of the angiotensin 2? It is the most potent, we know it. Okay, almost 100 times potent than angiotensin 1. Okay, so what it does, it it causes, one is constriction of the vascular smooth muscles, so increased BP, increased afterload on the adrenal gland, on the adrenal cortex. It is zona glomerulosa. Okay, that is a zona glomerulosa, fasciculata and reticularis. So particularly zona glomerulosa, that is responsible for the salt regulation. So the aldosterone is secreted from zona glomerulosa of adrenal gland. Okay, so when the aldosterone is secreted, there is increased sodium and salt and water, that is water and sodium retention. So because of the increased sodium and water retention, there is increased circulation, increased circulatory volume. Okay, so because of the increased volume, there is increased preload, means more amount of the volume is being loaded to the heart with during the diastole. Okay, increased afterload means there is increased force of contraction, there is increased load or increased force is required by the heart to push, required for the heart to push the amount of the blood into the blood vessels. Because of the increased vasoconstriction and increased resistance, the load increases on the heart. Heart has to do more work to push the blood into the blood vessels. That is increased afterload. Okay. So what are the physiological actions of the angiotensin? We have just seen one or two, like your adrenal gland and your blood vessels. Okay. So we'll see in details. Not only your adrenal cortex, but it also acts on the adrenal medulla. So adrenal medulla is a representative of the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, where the cell bodies are present, but not the axons. Okay, it releases adrenaline from adrenal medulla. That is one. Second one, it causes increased sympathetic outflow. Where? In the brain. Okay, in the medulla. So there is increased sympathetic outflow, and there is increased noradrenaline release from where? From the nerve endings as well as in the ganglia. Okay, so so there is increased noradrenaline release. At the same time, the after the release, after the action of the noradrenaline and the receptors, usually noradrenaline is reuptaken back into the cell body, into the axon terminal, but the reuptake by transporters, that is NET transporter, that is usually to some extent that is prevented by this angiotensin. Okay, so there is decreased reuptake of the noradrenaline which has already been released. So there is a prolongation of the action as well as the potentiation of the action of the noradrenaline. Okay. And next is it is because it is angiotensin, so it causes smooth muscle contraction. It increases the blood pressure, and the vessels, both arteries and veins, both are constricted, and there is rise of the BP. And this rise of the BP causes reflex bradycardia because of the baroreceptors present in the your arch of aorta and your internal carotid artery. Okay, so carotid receptors and arch of aorta receptor, baroreceptors, they get stimulated, and that causes reflex bradycardia. Okay. On the heart, what it causes, what are the effects of this angiotensin on the heart? It increases the contractility. So what should happen? Actually, what should happen? The cardiac output should increase. Ideally, it should increase. But because there is a rise in BP, because of there is a rise, your rise in afterload. So for that reason, there is hardly any change in cardiac output. It almost remain same, or even sometimes there is decreased cardiac output. Okay. And because there is reflex bradycardia, so overall there is no significant change in cardiac output, although there is contractility increase. Okay, so what next? It causes some structural changes in the heart. Actually, angiotensin causes both hypertrophy as well as hyperplasia, both hypertrophy as well as hyperplasia. Hypertrophy is increased size, plasia means increase in number of cells. So both of these things occur. It promotes apoptosis, and because they promote the growth factors, so there is increased fibrosis. Okay, where the fibrosis occurs and where the hypertrophy occurs. Actually, whenever there is one myocardial infarction or any tissue injury, myocardial tissue injury, what happens? The healthy side that get hypertrophied, and the dead and necrotic or damaged tissue that becomes more fibrotic and that get dilated. And because of this dissimilar or non-uniform growth or the changes in the heart musculature, there is distortion of the cardiac cavity, and it is commonly called as remodeling. So any drug which inhibit the angiotensin or angiotensin or the formation of the angiotensin from the precursor, they are usually particularly either ACE inhibitor. Suppose if we give ACE inhibitor, or if we give renin inhibitor, or if we give angiotensin receptor antagonist, then they will prevent this remodeling. Okay, this ventricular remodeling, which is the main cause of the death post myocardial infarction. Okay, after myocardial infarction, in long run or in the congestive heart failure, the main cause of the death is because of the ventricular decompensation, which is because of this remodeling thing. Okay. So other than the action on the heart, there is action on the smooth muscle also, particularly smooth muscles of the blood vessels. So there is constriction of the blood vessels, and there will be increase rise in blood pressure. In adrenal cortex, I had told it secretes your aldosterone, and from medulla it secretes your norepinephrine or adrenaline. Actually, the ratio of adrenaline to norepinephrine in adrenal medulla is 1:10. Okay, 10 times adrenaline, and norepinephrine or noradrenaline 1 part in the adrenal gland. And what happens when the aldosterone is secreted? Aldosterone actually what causes? It causes renal salt and water absorption. Where this thing happens? Renal salt and water absorption due to aldosterone, that happens in the collecting duct. Okay, because aldosterone causes formation of the aldosterone induced protein. This aldosterone induced protein is converted to sodium channel and get inserted into the collecting duct. Okay, in the collecting duct, it is these sodium channels, they get inserted, and more sodium they enter into the cell instead, and in return some potassiums they are get excreted out. Okay, so when the salt enters into the cell, in addition isosmotically the water also enter. So there is salt and water retention in the collecting duct due to presence of the sodium channel, which is a precursor which is formed by the aldosterone induced protein, and aldosterone induced protein is because of the action of the aldosterone on the cortical duct cells, collecting duct cells. Okay, so other than that, that is not the only cause of the salt and water retention. You can see in the CNS, it causes release of the antidiuretic hormone. So what the antidiuretic hormone will do, it will incorporate more and more water channels. They are called porine channels. Okay, more and more water channels or the porine channels, they are inserted into the collecting duct and they absorb water into the body irrespective of the salt concentration or the irrespective of the water concentration in the body. Okay, because of these porine channels. And at the same time, it stimulates the thirst center in the brain, and there is increased drinking behavior. Okay, drinking habit or drinking behavior is increased. So overall there is water and salt retention in the body. Circulatory volume will increase and that will cause increased preload. Okay, sympathetic system I had already told, they stimulate the central sympathetic system, they cause increased release of the adrenaline and noradrenaline, and also at the same time they prevent the decreased uptake of the noradrenaline back to the cell, because once the uptake happens, the action of the noradrenaline will end. So they prevent the uptake of the noradrenaline for that, so thereby they increase the life of the noradrenaline in the at the receptor site and more noradrenaline mediated action. Okay, now coming to angiotensin receptor. There are basically two receptors, angiotensin 1 receptor and angiotensin 2 receptors. Both are G protein coupled receptors. Okay, but both are opposite to each other in terms of actions. Okay, so most of the actions are what we see, we have read just, they are basically because of the angiotensin 1 action, not 2. Okay, so angiotensin 2 actions are exactly opposite. They cause vasodilatation and they cause decrease in this smooth muscle contraction, all those things. So angiotensin action 2 action is exactly opposite. Probably it is again that similar to angiotensin 1/7. It is probably NO mediated. Okay, and most of the actions are 81 mediated, what we just discussed. Okay, so what happens in the second messenger system, once the GPCR is G protein coupled receptor, that is angiotensin 1, is stimulated, there is activation of the phospholipase C. Okay, so it causes synthesis of the IP3 and diacylglycerol. Okay, inositol triphosphate and diacylglycerol synthesis in the cell increases, and that causes increased calcium release, and this increased calcium release causes MLCK, that is myosin light chain kinase activation. And because of this myosin light chain kinase activation plus calcium, increased calcium, that causes it is interaction of the actin and myosin. We'll see in the next thing. You see here, myosin light chain kinase, when it is activated, it becomes myosin light chain kinase phosphate, and along with calcium and calmodulin, they together, they convert the myosin to myosin phosphate. And once the myosin phosphate is formed, it can interact with the actin and they glide over each other and they cause contraction. Okay, so this is how the calcium and MLCK activation causes your contraction, smooth muscle contraction. Okay, and you can see whenever there is a nitric oxide, that does the opposite. Okay, and because it causes NO causes GTP to GMP, cyclic GMP, and that inhibits the formation of the myosin light chain kinase phosphate, and thereby prevent the contraction. Does the opposite. You can see the negative symbol. Okay, other than that, the diacylglycerol also stimulates the protein kinase C, MAP kinase, and tyrosine kinase. So what is the consequence? There is in consequence there will be a stimulation of the growth factors and the proto-oncogenes. These growth factors and proto-oncogenes, they are usually responsible for increased fibrosis. Okay, and increased what is that? That is hyperplasia and hypertrophy. Okay, hyperplasia and hypertrophy, both. Hypertrophy in the cardiac cells. Okay, and fibrosis, all are because of these things. Okay, these growth factors and proto-oncogenes. Although at the same time, the normal growth of the baby in utero is because of the growth factors. So any drug which inhibit the angiotensin receptor, okay, a receptor 1, then that is phytopathic. Even ACE inhibitors and angiotensin receptor antagonist all are phytopathic because of they inhibit the proto-oncogenes and growth factors. Okay. And one more action is by action of the phospholipase A2. They produce prostaglandins and leukotrienes, particularly prostaglandin I and E, I2 and E2, which are synthesized in the macula densa, and they cause renin release from the JG cells. Okay. You can see we have seen the renin causing the conversion of the angiotensin of Jn to angiotensin 1. Okay, you can see this renin. Okay, that converts the angiotensin of Jn to angiotensin 1 and angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, and all the actions like MAP kinase and plasminogen activator inhibitor 1 or JAK-STAT or proto-oncogenes or growth factors, whatever, transcription factor, and cell growth, fibrosis, apoptosis, remodeling, ventricular vascular muscle contraction, and all these nephropathy and retinopathy, all these things can happen because of this conversion of the angiotensin of Jn to angiotensin. So it is one is that is angiotensin 2 dependent pathway. So the angiotensin 2 is involved, the most active form is involved. But these prorenin and renin, okay, both can directly stimulate this MAP kinase and JAK-STAT pathway and proto-oncogenes in directly. Okay, so without the help of the angiotensin 1 or 2, that is angiotensin 2 independent pathway. So these both are possible. Okay, like ACE inhibitors, when ACE and non-ACE pathway both are present. Similarly, the angiotensin 2 dependent pathway and angiotensin 2 independent pathway are also present. Okay, so what happens in the feedback? So how the feedback system works? Suppose renin secreted by 3 stimulus, low sodium, okay, low blood pressure, and increased sympathetic, increased beta stimulation, beta renin is secreted. It forms angiotensin 1, 2, okay, angiotensin 2, and in turn, when it is it causes constriction of the blood pressure. So there is a rise of, there is vasoconstriction and a rise of blood pressure. When the rise of the blood pressure happens, so this decrease in blood pressure, that is taken care of. Okay, so when the blood pressure rises, so this part goes. So what happens? Obviously it will obviously inhibit the renin release. Okay, so that is one feedback inhibition, that is long loop, because renin, angiotensin 1, 2, blood pressure, and this sensed by macula densa, and when sufficient pressure occurs, the renin secretion automatically decreases. So that is long loop feedback. Another is short loop feedback, like renin is released from the macula densa, the JG cells, okay, and they directly act on this JG cells directly, because the angiotensin 2 angiotensin 1 receptor, AT1 receptor, that is AT1 receptor present on the JG cell directly. The renin acts on that receptor directly and inhibits. Okay, release from the JG cells, after release again acts on the JG cell. So that is short loop, and stimulation of the AT1 on the JG cell causes inhibition of the renin. Okay, so that is short loop. So these are the two controls. We have already discussed the macula densa pathway, intrarenal baroreceptor pathway, and beta receptor pathway. One detailed figure is present in your is given in your book, that is Goodman-Gilman. But one you can see this is the macula densa pathway. Whenever there is low sodium, there is stimulation of the renin. If there is increased sodium, if there is positive signal in this, if there is more tubular delivery of sodium to the macula densa, then there will be a negative. If it is plus, then it is minus. If it is minus, then it means less sodium, then it becomes plus. Okay. Similarly, baroreceptor pathway, if there is a high BP, then there will be negative signal to the renin release. If there is low BP because of the vasodilatation, or because of because of the action of any other drug like your calcium channel blockers, which are the vasodilators, or by giving the diuretics also. Okay, and when the blood pressure decreases, it becomes if it becomes less, then it becomes high. If it becomes a minus, it becomes plus. Okay, low blood pressure, more renin release; high blood pressure, less renin release. And another is your beta receptor activation, beta receptor pathway. Okay, so if there is more stimulation, there will be more release. Okay, more renin release. If there is your any beta blockers, like you can see, if there is beta blocker or central sympatholytics, there will be negative signal and it becomes negative. Okay, so these are the three pathways given in the your Goodman-Gilman. So how we can alter the renin-angiotensin system? We have almost covered everything, but we will see the drugs only. Okay, we can give sympatholytics by that we can block the beta 1 receptors, or you can we can give central sympatholytics so that there will be decreased sympathetic signal. Okay, or outflow. We can inhibit the renin by giving renin inhibitors like remikirin, aliskiren, or enalkiren, and we can give the SCE inhibitor so that we can prevent the conversion of 1 to 2. Okay, it acts here. Or we can directly inhibit the final destination of the angiotensin, that is the angiotensin receptor 1, which is the most active, or most of the physiological things happen because of the angiotensin 1. Okay, or else further one step we can go, and we can prevent the aldosterone antagonist. Okay, like spironolactone. We can give spironolactone. It is one diuretic also. Okay, because it prevents the sodium absorption. Aldosterone mediated sodium absorption in the collecting duct is prevented by spironolactone. So sodium is lost, also water is lost. So that spironolactone acts as diuretic. So it comes under the diuretic chapter. Okay, coming to the SCE inhibitor, the drugs. It is one of the question. Okay, it is a question, short question actually. It is a question. Enumerate the SCE inhibitors. Many people write many things. Many times what happen? People write some of the names of which we have never heard. Okay, so neologism also happens with this. But you can see it is all the drugs are ending with pril. Okay, so captopril, enalapril, lisinopril, fosinopril, perindopril, benazepril, ramipril. One more is there, quinapril. Few more prils are also there, so it is difficult to remember all the things. Out of these drugs, this is the first one drug. Captopril is the first one to be used clinically. Okay, before that there is one drug that was teprotide, but teprotide was not used because of the serious side effects and it was not clinically acceptable. So teprotide, it was rejected, and the first clinically successful drug in this class is captopril. And that's one more drug you can see, lisinopril. These captopril and lisinopril, you can remember CL something we use CL for leave purpose. So for the as a mnemonic, we can remember the CL are the active drugs. Active drugs. The rest, enalapril, fosinopril, perindopril, benazepril, and ramipril, all are prodrugs. Okay, sometimes it is asked in the examination, in the or in the viva. So what which is the active drug? The captopril and lisinopril, these two are the prodrugs. Okay, others are captopril and lisinopril, they are the active drugs, and the rest are prodrugs. So when there is enzymatic conversion, the prodrug becomes active drug, and the name usually change by one suffix at, like enalaprilat, fosinoprilat, okay, perindoprilat, benazeprilat. So by suffixing at, they becomes active drug. The active form is called in the name of with a suffix of at. Okay, except captopril and lisinopril, because these are active drugs, so their action is very fast. One thing, because they are active drugs, so also their half-life is short. So they act for a short period, they act faster and for a shorter period. On the other hand, the prodrugs, they are long acting usually, and they are slow acting, long acting and slow acting. Because the captopril is the fastest acting and as well as the shortest acting, it has one thing, that is it has more side effects. Okay, so that is one thing that happens with the usually not seen with the other groups, but mostly most of the side effects are seen, particularly hypotension, okay, or some other side effects like your cough or dysgeusia. They mostly happen with the captopril mostly, and less with the other, because they are slowly acting. And one drug is your enalapril. Okay, all are given orally, but enalapril is given injectively. Okay, for that reason it can be used in emergency purpose, emergency hypertensive crisis. Okay, emergency treatment of hypertension. For that, injectable enalapril is available. Okay, and the longest acting is ramipril. So you can remember in the name of ram, that ramipril is the longest acting. Okay, so we have some of the questions here. We solved. Captopril is the active drug, so also the lisinopril. And because they are active drugs, they are faster acting and shorter acting. Captopril is fastest and shortest, and for that reason they have more side effect. Captopril has. At the same time, ramipril is the longest acting, and enalapril is something that can be given injectively, and for that reason it can be used for emergency treatment of hypertension. Okay, and the active prodrug, when converted to active form, that becomes AT. One suffix is added to that, that is prelat. Okay, anyway, so fast drug I had already told. Fast is teprotide, fast ACE inhibitor, but it was not used because of the side effects. And what is ACE? Angiotensin converting enzyme is same as kinase 2. So when we inhibit the angiotensin converting enzyme, at the same time we are inhibiting the kinase 2. So what the kinase 2 to do? Actually, you can see it degrades the bradykinin and substance P. Okay, you can see the bradykinin and substance P, they are degraded by the kinase 2, and the degraded products are usually inactive. But if we give ACE inhibitors, what will happen? The kinase 2 will be inhibited because it is same as ACE. So when the kinase 2 will be inhibited, there will be accumulation of the bradykinin and substance P in the body. Okay, so what will happen? When the bradykinin and substance P will accumulate, they will potentiate the hypotensive action. Okay, actually bradykinin related side effects, because bradykinin causes vasodilatation. So this AC mediated decreased synthesis of the angiotensin 2 and decreased action of the angiotensin 1, angiotensin receptor 1 mediated action, also that is potentiated by this bradykinin. So what will happen? So there is doubling of the action. So there will be more vasodilatation and more decrease in the blood pressure. Okay, at the same time, because the substance P is accumulating in the cell, in the body, it will lead to one side effect, that is called cough. One typical cough, brassy type of cough, it is called brassy cough. Brassy cough, that happens because of the substance P accumulation. At the same time, some other side effect like angioedema, okay, urticaria, that is itching because of the substance P and bradykinin accumulation, urticaria and angioedema, edema of the face and neck, angioedema, that happens. Okay, so what are the pharmacological actions of these ACE inhibitors? Actually, they are meant for short-term lowering of the blood pressure, and this lowering the blood pressure is usually sodium dependent. If someone consumes large amount of the salt, okay, Suppose you are giving ACE inhibitor, at the same time the person is consuming large amount of the sodium, then sodium chloride, then maybe the action, the hypotensive action of this drug may not be that much. Okay, but more blood pressure lowering happens when there is a right ventricular hypertrophy, and whenever the patient is symptomatic and there is whenever there is more hypertension, the effect will be also more, the hypertension will be more. Okay, but you see, in case of essential hypertension, where the exact cause is not known, that usually comprises of 80% of the patients where the exact cause is not known, or where the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system is almost normal. So what the ACE inhibitor will do? It will do nothing. Okay, so the RAS, if the RAS system is not active or hyperactive, then the ACE inhibitors, even ACE 81 receptor antagonists, that is angiotensin receptor blockers, they cannot do much change. Okay, anyway, but with continued dose, they usually what they do, they decrease the total peripheral resistance because of the decreased salt and water accumulation in the body, which is because of the aldosterone, and because this angiotensin 1 is not synthesized, angiotensin 2 is not synthesized, or for that reason aldosterone is not produced sufficiently. What happens? This leads to decreased salt and water in the body. With the continued use of these drugs, there is decreased total peripheral resistance, and both the systolic and diastolic blood pressure falls. Okay, so there is what other benefits we may be getting. There is no reflex sympathetic stimulation, or the unlike your central sympatholytics. What happens when we stop it? There is reflex sympathetic stimulation when we use calcium channel blockers. Okay, calcium channel blockers, CCB we usually say. They usually what they do, they simply dilate the blood pressure, blood vessels. So the baroreceptor activation, so the baroreceptor mediated sympathetic stimulation may occur. Okay, and and this hyperaldosteronism, this usually happens with the diuretics. Why? Because diuretics, they cause loss of salt and water. Okay, low sodium and low water content happens in the body, and this low water and low salt, that stimulates the JG cells, and that cause renin and angiotensin and aldosterone. Okay, so there is a reflex hyperaldosteronism that happens with the diuretics, but this doesn't happen with the ACE inhibitors, because they are not allowing the synthesis of the angiotensin 2 from the angiotensin 1. So the aldosterone release from the adrenal gland will not happen. So there is no reflex aldosteronism, there is no reflex sympathetic stimulation. Coming to the adverse effects, there will be hypotension because the relaxation of the blood vessels. Okay, angiotensin 2 action, because that is most important action and most potent action, and because angiotensin 2 is not formed, so there is usually hypotension. So one exaggeration is postural hypotension because of the fast action, very fast and short period of action of the captopril. There may be postural hypotension that happens usually with the fast dose. Okay, fast dose postural hypertension that happens with the captopril may not be happening with others. Okay, anyway, it is one of the side effect. Hyperkalemia. Why there will be hyperkalemia? We have seen that the aldosterone mediated sodium entry and potassium exit, that happens in the collecting duct. Okay, so if we are blocking this, means we are blocking this also. Absorption of the sodium into the cell, we are blocking this in the renal collecting duct. At the same time, we are also indirectly inhibiting the release or excretion of the potassium from the body. And because of the decreased potassium excretion, there is hyperkalemia in the body. Cough occurs because of the accumulation of the substance P. Okay, substance P, because the kinase 2 is inhibited, so substance P is not degraded, so there is substance P mediated cough. Angioedema, again because of the substance P and bradykinin. Okay, and RAS and urticaria, again because of these two. And dysgeusia is some typical reversible loss of the taste sensation, loss of taste sensation in the body, in the tongue. Okay, this is typical, that is it is given a term, that is dysgeusia, because this angiotensin is involved in the proto-oncogene and growth factors. So ACE inhibitors can have some phytopathic effect. I had already told. Okay, and it may be producing acute renal failure in bilateral renal artery stenosis. Okay, so these two are the contraindications. One more is your this one. So the contraindications to the use of the AC inhibitor is hyperkalemia, because it may affect the heart, and phytopathic effect, because it may happen, may affect the growth of the fetus, maybe teratogenic effect or congenital anomalies, and it may produce arterial renal acute renal failure in case of bilateral renal artery stenosis. If the both the renal arteries are stenosed and we are giving AC inhibitors, then because of decreased filtration pressure, there will be decreased blood supply as well as decreased filtration. Okay, so there will be acute renal failure. But anyway, if we stop the drug, the condition is reversible, but we have to stop it earlier. Before, actually, ideally, we should do this renal artery angiography. Okay, renal artery angiography. If no visible cause is found, then before prescribing AC inhibitor, we must do this. Use, where we give, usually these are given as first line antihypertensives. Okay, in hypertension these drugs are given as first line. Okay, and in CHF, congestive heart failure, these drugs, because they prevent the ventricular remodeling, the in the both of these, in myocardial infarction and congestive heart failure, the cause of death is ventricular remodeling. I had already told what is ventricular remodeling, but there is fibrosis in the dead part and the hypertrophy in the healthy part, that causes irregularity in the heart musculature, ineffective contraction, and there is there may be sudden death may happens because of this, ventricular remodeling. And ventricular capacity, the ejection capacity of the heart usually decreases because of the irregularity of the ventricular cavity. Okay, sudden death, and that is one more thing is recurrence of the MI. Okay, recurrence of MI, these two can be prevented by continued use of SCE. So in post MI patients and in patients having congestive heart failure, these drugs are always given, almost always. And in the kidney, it not only in the diabetic nephropathy, but in case of non-diabetic nephropathy. Okay, in both of these conditions, this either halt the condition, the progression of the disease, or even sometimes reverse the condition. Okay, the one of the typical marker of the nephropathy is albuminuria. Whenever there is nephropathy, there is albuminuria. Okay, and this albuminuria will not happen, or it will be halted, either completely it is halted, or sometimes it is reversed, like gross albuminuria becomes micro, or micro becomes completely normal. Okay, so this can happen with this use of SE inhibitor, because they prevent the mesangial matrix growth. Okay, and mesangial thickening, and thereby they prevent any loss of albumin non-selectively from the body. So diabetic nephropathy as well as non-diabetic nephropathy can be halted, or the pathogenesis can be reversed. In scleroderma crisis, what happens? Actually, there is increased formation of the renin by the JG cells. It is one type of autoimmune disorder, and it is called systemic sclerosis. And in that, particularly in cutaneous variety, that is scleroderma, whenever there is a crisis occurs, there is increased amount of the renin release. Okay, in by the JG cells. Okay, and this renin mediated hypertension. Okay, renin will cause angiotensin 1 and 2, and for subsequently hypertension. So severe hypertension may occur. So in that condition, AC inhibitors are very much useful. Okay, coming to the last one, our angiotensin receptor blocker. Whatever the path the drug is, the angiotensin is synthesized, it must always act on the receptor, that is angiotensin receptor 81 particularly, not 2. 2 is opposite. Okay, so most of the vascular actions are because of the angiotensin 1. So the angiotensin 2 must act on the angiotensin 1 receptor to produce the action, physiological action. So if we block this angiotensin 1 receptor by giving angiotensin receptor blockers, okay, they are commonly called ARB. Okay, so if we give ARB, then whatever the path, be it ACE path, be it non-ACE path, be it any other that is pro-renin mediated or renin mediated augmentation activation, whatever the happens, okay, we can ultimately inhibit the receptor, but we cannot inhibit, that is 80 angiotensin to independent pathway. We cannot do that. We cannot do anything in that. Okay, so we cannot do anything for this, but this contribution of the angiotensin to independent pathway is very less. So major pathway is through this angiotensin 1 receptor mediated pathway. So if we give angiotensin receptor blockers like these drugs, losartan, candesartan, valsartan, telmisartan, irbesartan, and few more sartans have been added in the list. Okay, if we give these drugs, then we can ultimately inhibit the this pathological action or the action of the angiotensin 2. Okay, we can inhibit. So coming to the drugs, all have sartan. You can see all have sartan in their name suffix. Okay, and one more thing, in addition to blockade of this ARB, telmisartan also has one additional effect. It stimulates PPAR gamma. PPAR gamma mediated insulin release and insulin release, okay, from the body, that happens because of this telmisartan. It has one additional action, and losartan has one more action. Low, you see low, SAR in the in our Odia, local language Odia, SAR means we use it as some fertilizer, something a fertilizer. You can remember urea, okay, urea, or more specifically you can remember uric acid. So lowering of the uric acid in the body is one more action of the losartan. Okay, like in that ACE inhibitors, we have remembered ramipril, Ramban. It is the longest acting. Okay, similarly something like this, losartan. It is some mnemonic like thing. You can remember. So in this you can say, tell me which drug causes insulin like action additional to ARB. You just tell me. So this is telmisartan. Not a question, but a mnemonic. Okay. Similarly, low SAR or low urea or low uric acid. So lowering of the uric acid is caused by losartan. Otherwise, rest of the pharmacological actions of ARB is very much similar to that of ACE inhibitor. But one thing difference is that because these are not inhibiting the enzyme, so they are not inhibiting the bradykinin or substance P degradation. So these substance P and bradykinin, they are degraded in a normal way in the body when we give ARB. Okay, so bradykinin and substance P mediated side effects like cough, angioedema, urticaria, these will not happen. Okay, and similar to that, this hypotension part, it is very less because these are long acting drugs and they don't have any immediate action. So usually postural hypotension may happen, but usually doesn't happen. Okay, so acceptability of the ARB is very good. Okay, and coming to I think we have the last slide left. Okay, we'll finish in this slide only. Okay, so these are usually basically competitive antagonist of the angiotensin receptor. Okay, angiotensin receptor, receptor antagonist, and they are usually acting by by competitive and also by inverse agonist. What do we mean by inverse agonist? Means they lower the normal level of the activation to a smaller to lesser level. So that is inverse agonist. If this is the normal level and this is the inverse, means they bring down the normal level of the action of the or activation of the receptor to an even lower level. Okay, So competitive antagonist as well as inverse agonist. Okay. And there is no interference of the bradykinin metabolism, I had told. So the bradykinin or substance P related side effects we may not see. And there is no AT1 activation by any alternate angiotensin 2 generation. Okay. So what happens? Suppose we are giving ACE inhibitor. Suppose we are blocking the ACE. Then what happens? The non-ACE path that get activated and the angiotensin 2 is formed and AT1 receptor will be stimulated. So there is that doesn't happen with this ARB because they are acting directly on the receptor. Okay. At the same time, what happens? Where this angiotensin to whatever synthesis, they must act on some receptor. If the AT1 is not available, AT2 is available because these ARBs are not acting on the AT2. So what happens? Angiotensin will now act on the AT2 receptor. What will happen when it acts on the AT2 receptor? AT2 has exactly opposite action of the angiotensin 1. Okay. On one hand, it prevents the action of the angiotensin through AT1 receptor. At the same time, the angiotensin which has been synthesized in the body, they act on the other receptor, the angiotensin 2, which is producing the opposite action of the angiotensin 1. So there is usually production of the double action. Okay. And I had already told the side effects are very few and usually the drugs are very much acceptable. But the phytopathic, because the proto-oncogene and growth factor synthesis is affected by the receptor blockers also. So it is contraindicated in this condition. Also in hyperkalemia. Okay. In case of hyperkalemia also, these drugs are contraindicated. Okay. And usually first line in hypertension, and all those I have already told in the cardiac MI and CHF, okay, to prevent the ventricular remodeling, and in MI to prevent a sudden cardiac death, or to prevent the recurrence of another MI, okay, all for the all these purpose, and as first line in case of hypertension, these drugs can be used. Okay. So in the examination, actually, they usually ask you as a short note, angiotensin receptor blocker, where you have to write the names, the any few description, small description about where the act actually, where the receptor site, and some of the uses and adverse effects. It is same for this angiotensin converting enzyme also, but mostly you will get viva questions from this chapter. Or the AC inhibitor is one short note, and the angiotensin receptor blocker is another short note. These are only two short notes, but many questions you will find from this chapter, like your viva questions and your all India entrance questions, MCQs. Okay. So I will post some MCQs in my channel. There is one channel. I have one Telegram channel. You may visit that. That is https colon it is, let me https colon /t.me /Pharmatrix, all small letters, Pharmatrix. Okay. So in this channel I will post the short notes, post the objective questions, so you can try solving in those, and it will be fun if you solve them. Okay. I'll present them as MCQs, and you have to choose the right answer, and for each one of them you can ask if there is any doubt, and I will reply accordingly. Okay. Thank you for being